Hello and welcome. You're viewing the Citizens Journalist podcast, Mesa County Compass, that brings you the news that you can use from a different point of view. I'm Ruth.
I'm Lisa.
And together we are Mesa County Compass. Our goal is to create an informed, current, active citizenry armed with the facts. We will be covering what's new to you, what it means to you, what you can do about it, and provide you access to the decision makers when we can. Good afternoon. We're here with Mesa County Compass, and this afternoon we have Mr. Greg Lopez, who is running for our candidate for governor
That's
for
right.
the state of Colorado. Welcome, Greg.
Well, thank you for having me, Ruth. It's a pleasure to be here.
We'd love to have you, and before we get started with all the original questions, would you please give us a little information about yourself and a little background and why you chose to do this run?
Sure. For those that may or may not know, I'm a former congressman. Mm-hmm. I was a congressman for the 4th Congressional District, which is 21 counties on the Eastern Plains. It went all the way up to Nebraska, all the way over to Kansas, and all the way down to Oklahoma.
Oh, my.
Yeah. So, I was able to serve the people of the 4th Congressional. I'm a veteran. I'm a disabled vet. Mm-hmm. I'm the former president of the Denver Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I'm the former mayor of Parker. And he was a strong mayor. So I was a mayor and the city manager.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, wow.
So all the department heads reported to me, and I was 27 when I got elected. So I was the youngest mayor elected in the state at the time. And I'm also the former director of the United States Small Business Administration here in Colorado.
Okay.
And so the reason I'm running for governor is because I feel that our state's in a crisis. I don't believe that our leadership on either side of the parties right now are really focusing on solving problems. They're focusing on trying to blame each other as to why things are so bad for us. Mm-hmm. And I will share with everybody that, my governing principles are pretty simple. It's people over politics, do no harm, and do what works. Okay. I think if we follow that philosophy, we'll be able to solve a lot of the problems that Colorado is currently facing.
Okay, very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think are the biggest problems that we're facing right now?
Well, I will tell you, I believe that the biggest problem that's impacting everybody is the cost of living. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When you have grocery prices are up, our utility prices are up, our insurance is up, our property taxes are up. Everywhere you look, the cost of living is rising. Mm-hmm. And it's really hurting seniors, and it's hurting the young families that are trying to get started. It's hurting the poor. It's hurting the inner city. And so I think we need to first get a hold on our cost of living. But we also have to give hope to the younger generation that they can live the American dream. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of young people do not believe that they can ever have a house. I have a son that's 34. He just made me a grandfather.
Oh, nice.
He had twin boys.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a handful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I have a daughter that's 32, and I watch their struggles and I watch their challenges, and we need to fix that. I think it's time for us to see what we can do to reinstore the American dream here in Colorado.
And so what do you think has caused that dream? Because I have my own opinions, mm-hmm. but what do you think's made Colorado become so unaffordable, even compared to other states?
I think if you look at our transition, I will tell you that I believe Colorado fell off the rails when we legalized marijuana. I think that was the first sign that really Colorado had kind of started losing its moral compass. And so that started it. Had a lot of people coming in from other states because all of a sudden it was legal here, mm-hmm. right? And so when government wanted to constantly provide services, they had to continue to tax us, mm-hmm. right? And then the secret got out that Colorado is not as cold as people thought. Right. And so all of a sudden California started to move here, other people started to move here. And so I think what's really happened is that Colorado has not made it very clear that, we welcome you, but we really need you to understand the way we make decisions in Colorado, right? We make good informed decisions so that we're not putting the burden on the taxpayers. So I think that's really what's started to bring up the cost of living. And you look at the rules and regulations that are being brought by the legislature. We've seen what a single party rule does over the last 7 years. And I will tell you, the quality of life, as I travel the 64 counties, the quality of life of people is not getting any better. It's getting worse and worse. And it's all due to regulations in this worldview that government can solve everybody's problems.
Right. Right.
So what do you think about the current Republican Party? And where are we going to have assembly? And this is a problem too. I mean,
It is. It is.
Not just the other party attacking us, but our party attacking ourselves.
And I'm glad you asked that question, because I think people need to step back and ask that question themselves, right? It's one thing to be loyal to a party because we want to see change, but we also must hold each other accountable. We have to police each other. And so when there's division amongst ourselves, we don't get anywhere,
Right.
and we lose sight of the purpose of the party. And the party is designed to help candidates get elected, to bring unity amongst the worldview that we want to see in the state. And we can't come together at a table quietly and evaluate and come to some form of agreement. The public square watches us. And here's another thing I think a lot of people don't know, that people are watching. They're watching to see how the party behaves. And even the younger generation, right? And so who wants to be a part of a family where all they do is bicker and argue? And so as you know, now the active voters here in Colorado, 50% are unaffiliated, 25% are Democrat, and 23% are Republican. And I think it's because people are like, why are we even involved in an organization when we can't do the basics? Just hold a state assembly.
Organizations seem to be on a way out as far as that part of it goes.
Yeah, from my understanding, there was an article written yesterday, I believe, where there is going to be a meeting of some sort, where there's going to be a vote of confidence, and we'll see.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Yep.
Well, it's your turn, Ruth, because I'll just keep going. You know that.
Well, I had a bunch of questions here that I wanted to ask you about. You're all for small business. So
Yes.
what regulation do you think is the biggest anchor on entrepreneurs right now?
I think it's an array, right? Because the Department of Regulatory Agencies, DORA, right? The bureaucrats have to feel like they are controlling the success of small business. I used to have a little restaurant bar, okay? I'll give you a perfect example of some of the things that I think are very inappropriate. So when you have a restaurant of any size, the health department can come in unannounced,
Yes.
okay? So they show up and they do their inspection. And so we went to the kitchen and he opened up the refrigerator, threw a thermometer in there, and we were talking. And 3 minutes later, he opened it up and he pulled it out and he says, "You know what, Greg, you are 2 degrees over the mandatory temperature." And I said, "Well, okay, well, I'll call someone to come check the refrigerator. Thank you for letting me know." And so he did the whole inspection. And then at the end, he says, "I need you to go to your supply closet, get me a trash bag and all the chemicals that you have in there. And you bring all those cans out here." So I asked him, "Okay, but why?" He says, "I need you to pull everything out of the refrigerator, put it in a bag, throw all the chemicals over it, because you can't use any of that product." Because I was 2 degrees under the prescribed degrees, right? I had probably $800 worth of inventory in the refrigerator. And so those are the types of things where you would think, this is not about getting food poisoning, right? This is not about a public safety issue.
Right.
This is about someone saying you will meet the letter of the law, not the intent of the law, but the letter of the law. And so these are the regulations that I think. The other thing is the burden of all the reporting, right? All the reporting that small business has to do for whatever purpose that the state wants. And I don't think they fully understand, or they choose not to understand, a small business owner wears an array of hats, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so they have so much responsibility that they don't need another form to be filled out, right? They don't need another.
They just need to run their business.
Yeah, let them be successful.
Right.
So, as governor, what would you do?
Well, the first thing that a governor needs to do is hire the right people, right? There are 16 divisions that the governor appoints to. DORA is one of them, okay? And when you select these individuals, you got to ask them how they would handle certain situations. You're not looking for someone that can read the role and say, well, I can do that. You need them to understand what is the purpose of this role? What is the spirit and the intent of this role? And is it hurting or harming? Again, remember, my governing philosophy is do no harm. So if it's hurting a small business, we're going to remove those and not apply them, because those rules and regulations are not legislative laws. These are bills that get passed, and then you have the bureaucrats trying to apply those laws in whatever manner they believe it should be done. And so reevaluating every one of these rules, hiring the right person, and constantly inquiring, what are we doing to help small business be successful? And you never, I'm a firm believer, and you trust and verify, right? You trust that they're telling you it's working, but you got to go out into the public square, talk to small business, and ask them, is life better or worse in the last 6 months for you? Are regulations choking you? Are they strangling you? Or do you feel that they're helping you be successful? And if they say, it's tough, then we need to go back and we need to fix it, right? In the federal government, there's a position called the ombudsman, right? I think we need to have an ombudsman right here in Colorado, where small businesses can go and complain and not feel that that inspector or anybody is going to retaliate, make it even harder for them. Yeah.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And it's amazing nobody's thought of it or implemented it. So do you have the authority to remove, because I did asbestos inspections, so of course we were under the CP, the Division of Environment
Public
and
Health, right.
Pollution. I can't even get all my initials good.
The acronyms, right? There's so many of them.
So how do you do that? I mean, do you just go in and say, well, we're looking at the head of this and we will remove you? Or can you do that at any point?
Yes. Look,
Yes,
right
Governor?
now, every department head is at the pleasure of the governor. Okay? These are the top 16,
Including Dora?
including DORA.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So, because they're not employees of the state, they've been selected by the governor. Okay? There's no process of application. If the governor says, if I was to say, hey, Ruth, I would love for you to be the head of this agency, I offer you the position, you say yes. I may have to take you in front of the Senate for confirmation. But if they say, hey, we agree with the governor, you get the job, right?
Okay.
And the same thing happens. Because I remind people, look, the governor is very similar to the president of the United States. So if you envision that the governor is the president of Colorado, he works very similar as the president of the United States. While the president has 50 states, the governor has 64 counties. But he's in control of the National Guard. He's in control and appoints judges, just like the president does, right? And he appoints the heads of the divisions. And if they're not doing their job correctly, he has the ability to remove them. And so, again, when I was mayor, a strong mayor, I think it was the second week I was there, all the department heads brought their letter of resignation to me because they knew that I had the decision as to whether they were going to stay or not. And most people would like to resign versus being told your services are no longer required, right? But what I did was, once they gave me the letter, I would open my drawer and I would just throw the letter in there. And I would say, you know what? We'll talk about this in 6 months.
Okay.
And after 6 months, I gave them all back their letter because they were all doing the job correctly, you know. And you don't want to just fire people because,
because.
just because,
Yeah.
right? There's a lot of institutional knowledge. There's a lot of background and history that they're aware of. So you got to be very careful if you're going to kick that out the door. You got to give them an opportunity to prove that they understand what their job really is, and it's not political. The job for them is to actually do and perform on behalf of the people, but overseeing the agency. Yep.
Okay, so you have a supermajority of Democrats. How do you work with them and to ensure that what your vision and what you believe to be the people's vision is accomplished?
Well, I tell you, see, this is what's very special about me running as an independent, okay, as an unaffiliated candidate, is that I don't play politics. So they can't accuse me of playing politics when I say I want to see something happen. But what it allows me to do also is that I can either support them when they're doing good legislation, and I can go against them when they're doing bad legislation. But imagine right now if they're pushing a bill that I believe, and I was a governor, and I believe it's hurting, right? I would go into their districts, have meetings, town hall meetings with the community, and inform them of what legislation their House representative is supporting or their state senator is supporting, and have them determine whether they're representing them correctly or not. So the governor has two types of influence. He's got the influence of the executive branch, which is guaranteed to him by the Constitution. The other is the influence of the public, right? The public square. Right now, the governor does not educate anybody, and he's not speaking as the voice of the people.
True.
You know, and that's really what a public servant should do. So I would go into those committees, right? Share with them and say, you know what, your House representative so-and-so is doing this. Your state senator is doing this. I believe that's not the appropriate thing to do. I'm here to answer any questions you might have, but you need to talk to them because they're going to be voting. One of the things I will tell you elected officials do not like is when the public is asking them questions. And if the public is asking them questions, they get very nervous because they know people are watching. But
They
if,
sit in their ivory tower and shut the door.
exactly, right? And if they're not being asked questions, they just vote however they want to vote, and no one is the wiser. But if the governor is out there in the public square and letting people know what's happening, I think that they will realize, okay, we need to sit down with the governor before he goes out there.
We don't want him going out there on his own. Let's talk to him about neutral language.
Right.
I don't think he's using neutral language.
Exactly.
So
Right.
how do you reach the public? Because this is a big thing for your campaign and for you as governor. How do you reach the people and get them to pay attention? Because that is a real problem.
Well, here's the thing, right?
Engaged.
Word of mouth. I'm a firm believer in a word of mouth campaign. Okay. Yeah, you can do all the social media, you can do the radio, you can do the ads, and
You can do the podcast.
right. You can do, but ultimately, what do people look for? They look for their circle of influence, right? And they talk and they say, "What do you think? What did you hear? Are you hearing the same thing I am?" Right? And it creates this public upswell of, you know what, we like what we're hearing. Now, I will be very honest with you. I'm going to be outspent 10-1. They're all going to outspend me. The one thing that they will not do is outwork me because I'm a hard worker. You know, I go into communities now that no Republican or Democrat candidate would even dare to get into, right? And that is the black community, the Hispanic community, the poor communities, you know, actually go out into the public square and have conversations with them. And so I believe that's really what's going to set me apart from the other candidates is that I will have my hand on the pulse of what people are thinking and what people are feeling. It's about building relationships, right? I mean, if you build a relationship, people will at least give you an opportunity to listen to what you have to say.
That's true.
And so one of the things I'm going to do as governor with the Democrat and the Republicans is I'm going to have a lunch once a week where I will invite 10 to 12 representatives and senators to have lunch with me. And we can just talk about legislation, or we can talk about what's going on in sports. We can talk about whatever. No real hidden agenda outside of, I need to know who you are, right? How long have you been in Colorado? What's your family like, right? What's your background? Because if we can come together and recognize that we're all there for the same purpose, and that is to help the people of Colorado and not see each other as enemies, we should be able to come to some real conclusion that helps versus doing something different.
Do you think it's time now that Democrats and Republicans are kind of in the background and the independents are starting to come forward?
I do. Look, it's when you look at the political landscape, it is very clear that most people are not happy. They're tired of the rhetoric on both sides. They're just tired, right? They're frustrated because nothing changes, right? You elect a Democrat, your quality of life doesn't get any better. You elect a Republican, it doesn't get any better necessarily either. And so it's like, when are we going to have somebody that can kind of come in here, tell us the truth? It's not easy, right? It's going to take time, but if we work together, we can build a state that works for families, workers, and children. We must work together, though, because if we don't, all we're going to do is stumble over each other. And who suffers? The people.
So you're not necessarily advocating crossing the aisle, you're just advocating face to face.
I'm advocating solutions that work. I could care less whether it's a smart solution from a Republican or a smart solution from a Democrat. If it works and solves the issue, then we need to move forward. But the one thing we got to do is make sure that we're not growing government. Government is not the solution for all the things that we're facing with. You know, right now, a lot of people don't know, and this is how I educate people. You know, there are 100 legislators in the state of Colorado, 35 senators, and 65 House representatives. And in 5 months, they pass over 600 bills. In 5 months, they don't have time to read these.
No.
Right?
Not at all.
So I will encourage them, and I will encourage the community to put pressure on them. Only 200. You each get 2 bills, not 5, not 8, 2. And then they can and I will give them guidance like, you know what? We need to focus on transportation. So you guys need to bring in solutions for transportation. We need to bring solutions in for education. So your 2 bills, you guys negotiate it, but let's focus on these issues versus, well, I just need to pass a bill. Yeah.
So, where you said 8 years, we've seen things get worse. Where do you think this started? And, you know, the solution to me is very philosophical too. On the left, it is very much that the government is here to solve all the problems. And the conservatives are very much the government needs to be small and only maybe be a safety net, not a solution, and let the people work for themselves. So how do you get those on the same page, and how did we get there?
Well, here's the interesting thing, right? And we'll go back to where we are today. 50% of the voters are unaffiliated. So I don't have to worry about what the Democrats are thinking. I don't have to worry about what the Republicans are thinking because we already know there's a division. We already know that they're not interested in working together. But we do know they want to get elected. And we do know they want to stay elected. And so by representing the masses, I can bring them together and talk about, let's look at what government has done over the last 7 years. Let's talk about alternative energy, right? Windmills and solar. Have we gotten better? Did our utility bills go down? Are they going up? What's happening here? Because we said we were going to do this. We've been doing it, but is it helping or hurting everyday Coloradans? Right? I think the verdict will come back and say, you know what? It's not doing what we said it was going to do. There is a role for it, but not to the level that we told everybody it should be, right? And the same thing with the homeless, right? Let's be compassionate. We gotta help these people, but we can't enable them just to be reliant on government. We must let people understand they have value, and we need to bring out the best in them. And it doesn't matter whether you're making $100,000 a year or $40,000 a year. If you're providing for yourself and you're staying out of trouble and you're contributing to society and you're happy, that's all that matters. Doesn't matter whether you're digging ditches or working behind a computer screen. And we used to do that, right? We used to tell everybody, yeah, we said, be proudful of the job that you're doing and do the best that you can. Right? And the thing about America is that just because you start digging ditches doesn't mean that in 3 years you can't be a supervisor
Absolutely.
or a manager, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Happens all the time.
Right.
Yep.
Well, then I will ask you on kind of carrying on with that point is, where do you stand on gas and oil?
Well, I will tell you, gas and oil is a very important fossil fuel that we need for energy. You know, I kid sometimes. I kid and I don't, but I tell women, I said, how would you like to never be able to buy a pair of yoga pants again? They're like, what? So, well, you know what? Without oil,
Yep.
that's the byproduct of that, right?
Right.
The plastics and everything else. So you may not like that oil when we're burning it has an odor to it or whatever, but ultimately it provides a quality of life that we all believe we should enjoy. And so let's be smart about it, right? I see right now in my little crystal ball, oil and gas probably should be carrying 80 to 85% of the load of providing energy. The other 15%, all right, maybe wind, maybe solar, but let's stick nuclear in there now, right? Let's stick the nuclear in, and let's see how that's going to play out. But it's a slow transition. You cannot expect Colorado in 2040 to be 100%, renewable energy. That just doesn't make sense. The science doesn't prove it. The environment won't allow it. Our electrical grid is so fragile that it will not withstand that type of stuff. I mean, I'm really concerned right now with Xcel Energy doing these blackouts.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And these
Let us
smart
control that for you. Yeah, we'll just turn yours off because.
these
you're
smart
using
meters,
too much.
right?
Yes.
It's like, well, that's not a smart meter. That is your ability to shut off the electricity when we need it, right?
Even though they said it would not happen, because we have a gentleman who is working for Excel who said that it won't happen. It won't ever happen.
Unless you tell it that that's fine with you.
Right. Right. Hello.
But you know what? And then they're getting creative, right? Right now they're charging more if you use peak hours, right?
Right.
Yeah. So if you're going to cook at 6 o'clock, guess what? The rates go up
Right.
between 5:30 and 7 when everybody's using their
My rates went up anyway,
exactly right. And the question,
and I'm
remember,
single.
and the thing is, right? Even if you don't use more in your mind, right? I've been gone a month. That bill doesn't come down dramatically.
No.
Yeah. So what people don't understand is that we're paying for a lot of infrastructure that is not producing energy, but it's being mandated by legislation. And we're wasting millions and billions of dollars trying to achieve something that cannot be achieved.
Boy, do I agree with you there.
And as governor, what can you do with Excel?
Well, as you know, the governor appoints the PUC, right? And so appointing the right people in the PUC, sitting down with the CEO of Xcel Energy and asking, why are the rates going up? What's causing this, right? I have a problem. And I know what they're going to tell me because I have a pretty good sense. It's like, well, when we have mandates that we have to do certain things, we're not going to pay for it.
Right. We're just going to pass it on. Yeah, amen.
Exactly. And so we need to understand, what is these mandates that you feel you're doing because government wants you to do, but it's really putting pressure on the pocketbooks of people.
Right.
And I think they're thirsting for a real conversation with someone that they're saying, hey, let's make sure we're in this for the long run.
Right.
Not just, hey, well, we need renewable energy by 2040. That is such an aggressive timeline. It sounds great in people's minds, but
And
people
I'm not even sure it sounds great in people's minds.
Yeah.
It is something that they're saying,
They've been
if you
told.
care about the planet,
Yes.
this is what you need to acknowledge, but you don't have any information that
And that's a
says
UN
that
thing.
that is.
they
so
create a
important.
moral conflict, right? It's like, well, don't you want to save the planet? So, well, yeah, but we're not all impacting the planet, right?
Right.
We can do our little part here in Colorado. But China's doing their part, India's doing their part,
Exactly.
Indonesia is doing their part. We all share the same air, right? So we got to be prudent about what we're doing. because we're sacrificing our quality of life while others are just doing what they care to do, and their economy is growing. But to your point, we must have common sense conversations and just have those conversations and not get offended if someone disagrees with you,
Yes.
right? But we need to be respectful of other people's opinions. That doesn't mean we agree with them, but we must at least acknowledge that they have an opinion that's different from ours.
Well, and to me, even more than that, we need to put the other people on the table, because we talk about intellectual freedom, but if you don't have access to the other side and you're just saying, well, everything over here is what we're doing wrong, but other people might disagree with some scientific evidence and say, well, that's not really true. This is the scientific evidence on the other side, but it's never presented.
Right.
Or never acknowledged that it could even be correct.
I would love to see a primetime show that is debate driven.
Would
Right?
be very interesting.
Wouldn't it? To have high school students or first 2-year college students debate, which is the right way to go. Should we do the homelessness? Should we do ICE? Should we do the environmental stuff? And have them argue their case and let the people watch and learn, because you're wanting them to not only articulate the knowledge that they have, but it also allows you to learn from the next generation how they're thinking. And they will be the next leaders. And I think that would be a very insightful and entertaining to some extent. People are like, I had no idea that was how much carbon monoxide is out there. For example, I'm learning that all this dead lumber that's up in the forest, that is an environmental issue from the standpoint of, as the wood decays, it's putting up carbon in the air. Because it used to be the forest was a carbon sink. So it would take the carbon out of the air and put it back into the ground. Well, if you have less trees doing that, they're decaying. All that carbon that they captured has to go out somewhere, right? So there's a lot of different ways to evaluate what is actually happening and how do we fix it.
And if you look at how much we are carbon-based creatures, so
Yes.
that's part of it. And they used to, I don't know if you know, my neighbor across the street is a professional gardener, and she said, it used to be the carnations that you saw were so big and bright and beautiful. It was because they brought in carbon, and they had to take those machines out that caused them to be bigger, because you don't have that much carbon anyway, and it hasn't changed that much with everything that we've been doing. And solutions that have been raised, and Russ Andrews, I thought he was brilliant, because we have the Japanese beetle problem.
Right.
What he suggested is, instead of the government saying, when you clear acreage, that you say, all right, anybody can come in and clear 4 or 5 acres, and they can sell, because they said it makes beautiful furniture or it makes good firewood. Go in, clear it out. Don't tax those people that are actually doing that, and let them sell whatever they're doing for not being taxed either. And he said, then you don't have to have these huge corporations come in and do that, but it would be a simple little thing. And that was when he was running for 3rd District, and I thought,
Keep it local.
but nobody, that idea just was his, and it just, there it is. Goes no further.
Yeah, because you know what? Most people do not want to take baby steps, right? Or they believe, let's just do it in one big operation. But you're leaving out a lot of the little companies and so forth. Right. And I learned that being at SBA, right? It's like, well, we don't have enough small companies that build a highway. It's like, well, you never started out large, right?
That's exactly
right. Right? You all started out small. You grew to the size that you are. So let's do joint ventures. Let's break up the contract into 4 different contracts, 3 different segments, and let's allow the others that are trying to build, because it's the velocity of the money, it's the economy, we're creating jobs, right? And some of the bigger corporations, they bring their employees from out of state, right?
Which doesn't help us.
It doesn't.
Take the money right back out of state.
Exactly. So you've got to have someone that understands the totality of what it means to be a governor. And I will tell you, I am the only candidate right now on both sides that has true public administration experience. No one else has ever done running a city with all these departments, putting budgets together, understanding the complexity of everything that you need to do to create a brighter future for your constituents. They all believe that they can, and I'm not saying that they can't, but I'm saying they don't have true on-hands experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, with that being said, what as governor would you do to bring the East Slope and the West Slope together? Because right now there's a distinct divide,
Oh, yeah.
and that mountain does it.
Well, and it doesn't.
And the population,
And the
urban
population.
versus
Right.
rural.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, and it's because, in my humble opinion, it's because the urban corridor does not respect the way of life and the quality of life of rural Colorado. They're so accustomed to the noise and the concrete and the bustle that they believe those people that live out there in rural Colorado, they're not educated. They don't
Yes,
know,
yeah.
right?
Right?
What's wrong with them?
Exactly. You know, they're not after more bigger cars, bigger homes. What they don't understand is like we love the peace and the calm that we have. You know, I have 2 acres. I live out in Elbert County. I'm 15 minutes away from the concrete jungle. You know, but I love my little part of heaven, right? Because I know I have a well, I have a septic tank, I have a dirt road in front of me. You know, so I don't have cattle because I only have 2 acres. But for me, it's my little piece of heaven, right? But we need to respect each other, our way of life, our decisions that we made, and we cannot live without each other.
Right.
So it's the governor's voice that says enough. We need to come together, and that's the goal, that's the objective. And nobody's better than anybody else. We all live in Colorado, and we must all understand the importance of the quality of life for all residents, all 64 counties.
We all have a part to play.
Yes, right. And if you lead through that, then legislators, senators will start echoing what you're saying because they believe it and they want to know who's going to bring us together. And what does that mean, right? It means that we just need to respect each other. You know, it's kind of like the golden rule, right?
Exactly.
Just treat others how you would like to be treated.
Agreed. So a problem I see is we've got one office, we've got, 30 people running for governor,
At least.
but nobody is running for Secretary of State. And, you know, I know that you were part of the Republican Party, and I remember when you were seeking this role before. So, one, what made you leave the party and decide to become independent? And what do you think about all those other positions that are currently held by Democrats that aren't on the same page philosophically?
Yeah. Look, when you look at the history of Colorado, right? So in the last 45 years, we've only had one Republican governor in the last 45 years. And that was Governor Bill Owens.
Bill
Yes.
Owens.
Okay? And when he beat the lieutenant governor, what was her name? Gail Shetler. Okay?
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
He beat her. Yeah.
I'm scared.
Yeah. That's how long it's been,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
He beat her by 8,000 votes. Less than 1% of the vote he beat her by, right? The first time.
Right.
When he got for re-election, because he'd done such a marvelous job to bring people together and do smart growth and do all this water issue, you know, he won by 20 points against Raleigh Heath. Okay? But that's the last time we've had a Republican
That's true.
governor, okay? And so I'm looking at, my goal is to be the governor. You know, I don't really need to have a letter by my name. It would be nice, right, if we're moving forward, because that's the worldview, right?
Right.
I'm conservative. You know, the Hispanic community is conservative, even though they vote Democrat because they believe in the mantra, the Democrats are for the poor and the Republicans are for the rich, right? And that's why they tend to always vote democratically. But I will tell you that when we look at that type of stuff, we need to understand where are the votes, who is making those decisions. And to your point, I looked at when's the last time a Republican got elected? What is happening at the national level? What is happening with ICE? What is happening in the narrative, right? And when President Trump lost Colorado by 11 points, okay, but he did win Pueblo. You know, and Pueblo's 63% Hispanic.
Right.
You know, so it's like, what kind of candidate are the people of Colorado willing to support? And I think it's someone that is looking at it in its totality, that understands the challenges of healthcare, understands the challenges of abortion, understands the challenges of the environment, the economy, all these things that impact our daily lives. Not someone that's going to lecture people and tell them this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it. I will never be the smartest man in the room, and that's okay by me, because I'm going to surround myself with good individuals that can guide me, and we can make informed decisions. And the one thing we got to make sure we do is we don't make decisions based on the next election. We got to make long-term decisions with visionary glasses, right?
Yep.
What is it going to look like 10 years from now? If we do this, how is it going to look 10 years from now? And we don't encourage each other to look into the future to say, what happens if the growth stops? What happens if we lose a big industry or something else happens that we have no control over, like drought and water, right?
Yeah. That was my next question. So
Yeah.
you're reading my mind.
Yes. Ooh, he had that crystal ball he pulled out. I heard him say that.
So, you know, as we look at, so I looked at where I was, and I will tell you this, I will remind you this. When I ran in 2022, okay, I got top line from the state assembly. The Democrats spent $2 million against me in the primary, okay? They did not want me to go to the general. And so if you read the blueprint, that book,
All read the blueprint.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you go to page 227, in the middle of the page, it says that what they tend to do is go after the strongest Republican candidate in the primary so that they don't have to deal with them in the general.
Right.
And that's what they did to me in 2022. They came after me in the primary. They sent out mailers, they ran commercials. I was too conservative for Colorado, right? Well, they can't do that now because I'm going straight to the general. So now they have to deal with me at the general election.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So
All right.
they can't take me out before the general. And I will tell you, the Democrat Party is more fearful of me running as an independent than what the Republicans should be, because I'm taking the minority vote away from them. I am taking the Hispanic vote, the black vote, and the small business vote away from them because none of their candidates understand those voting blocks.
Interesting.
That is,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
Huh.
All different philosophy than what we've heard so far.
Yep.
So
yes.
that is
Yes.
kind of interesting.
Totally.
So water. Water is the biggest issue on the western slope.
Yes, it
Well,
is.
it's not.
Actually-
it's the biggest issue for me. on
It's
the western
one of the
slope.
big issues.
Yeah.
Well, it should always be a big issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what we survive on.
Exactly.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes.
Yeah.
Both
So-
the eastern slope and the western slope, because the eastern slope needs it for its water for its people.
Right.
We need it for agriculture
And for our people.
And for our people.
Yes.
Exactly.
So, what are your views, and is the role of the governor in water?
Once again, right, the role of the governor is to be the voice of the people of the state.
Okay.
And so as you know, right now the Colorado River Compact, right, is being negotiated because it's expiring in this year. So there's a lot of debate about what's going on. And I don't think enough people understand what is the importance of water, right? People do not know that no water flows into Colorado. It all flows out, right? 83% of our water comes from the snow melt. 17% comes out of the ground. And so we must have strong winters and snowfalls in order for the spring thaw to be able to give the senior rights, the water rights, the ability to use them. The junior rights have to wait in line. But right now, there are, as you know, in the Colorado River Compact, there are 7 states that are fighting for the same water,
Yes.
right? This was signed in 1922, And so the lower basin is California, Arizona, and Nevada, right? That agreement says they get 7 million acre feet of water.
Exactly.
The upper basin is Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, and New Mexico. And that agreement says that those four will get 8 million acre feet of water. What a lot of people don't know is that the lower basin has been using more water than they've been allocated for so many years, right? That they believe they're entitled to it.
Yes, exactly.
You know, and no one thought about what happens if we don't have enough water, enough rainfall.
Which
right?
is coming.
Right? So if you look at Lake Powell feeds Lake Mead, okay? And Lake Powell 20 years ago was 87% full.
Right.
Today, it's at 27% full. So we've reduced the level of Lake Powell, which is supposed to feed Lake Mead, right? But yet California, Nevada, and Arizona are growing, and there's only three ways to use water, right?
Right.
Ag, industrial, and residential.
Right.
My priority, ag, industrial, and then residential. We're growing at a rate that we should not be growing in this state. You know, we're having people live on top of each other down in the urban corridor. Growth is not necessarily the best thing that can happen to any state or any community because it puts pressures on everything. Your police department, your fire department, your health services, your schools. Every aspect of the community gets impacted by more growth because people need more services. And right now, who's paying for those services? Predominantly the taxpayer and government. And so it's okay to slow down, right? Pump the brakes. I'm not saying stop growth forever, but let's reevaluate where we're going. If we continue this growth pattern, what's it going to look like 10 years from now?
So how do you stop the growth?
Yeah.
Do you say you can't come into Colorado? I mean, because we found in ours, especially in our school district, they said we have a declining population. People that are moving into Grand Junction are not having kids. And they're living in apartments as opposed to being able to afford their first homes. So how are you going to stop this growth when, especially when the city said, well, we need the growth to make more affordable homes, to do all these other things for the community?
So, again, I would challenge that mindset because being a mayor and a city manager, I understand land use, I understand zoning, I understand property rights, I understand all those types of issues. And so when I was mayor, I put an 8-month moratorium on growth. Okay? Now, what does that mean?
Yes.
It means that you can't get more of approvals, new approvals for homes. But there's enough inventory in the system where you wouldn't even notice that there's a moratorium. Because right now, all builders and all developers have at least 14 months of inventory in the pipeline so that they can constantly be building, right? So even if you put a moratorium on, you can't bring in new applications, they still are building. So it doesn't hurt the economy. What it does, and what I did, is we reevaluated all of our rules, everything. Are we going to have detached sidewalks, attached sidewalks? Are we going to do 6 units per the acre, or are we going to do 4 units by the acre? Are we going to require 5 acres for every amount of house, parks, or are we going to require 10 acres for parks? School dedication, right? Fire stations dedication. All this stuff so we can build a real functional community. Because I will tell you, builders and developers, at least been my experience, they're capitalists and they just want to maximize their return. Very few of them are really interested in building a well-rounded community of different levels of housing, different types of diversity, so that the younger generation can live in that neighborhood, the seniors can live in that neighborhood, small up-and-coming families can live in that neighborhood. They don't think about that. They look about how many units can I get to the acre, what can I sell the lot for, how quickly can I sell the lot, because I got debt, I got to pay the bondholders, and it's all capital.
Turn time. Yep.
Yeah, but when you have elected officials say, stop, we're just going to pause for a minute here, right? Let's talk about this.
You're going to have an uproar when something like that happens.
But that's okay.
Especially from this side of the mountain.
Well, here's the thing, right? So let me ask you, growth, right? Right now, unless your taxes aren't high enough or low enough, right? Why do you bring more people in? Okay. Residential does not pay its way. It does not. Okay. Residential brings commercial. And so the commercial is what's carrying, right? So if you're going to have more residential, get ready for more commercial, right? Which means more roads, wider roads, right? More congestion because of the traffic. I will tell you, every house that you build will add about 3.5 vehicles to the road, because most people have 2 vehicles, right? One for the husband, one for the wife.
One for the kids.
There you go. There you go, right? 3. Okay. How many times do they drive around the community? They're driving back and forth, right? It's not like they just drive from home to work and from work to home.
Right.
So all that traffic starts impacting the quality of life of all the individuals. You know, specifically, if you're not building new roads, you're putting more pressure on the same roads. And so these are the conversations. Now, growth is good, but you can't have unmanaged
Uncontrolled,
growth.
yeah.
Uncontrolled, yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you know, and as I drive the state, at least in the urban corridor, it's unmanaged. It's just growing by weeds. And because Denver is landlocked, or communities are starting to get landlocked, they're building up, right? So now people are forced to live on top of each other, right? And the sense of community is gone.
Well, I think this would be, I would just delight to have you share all of this with the Home Builders Association.
Oh, yeah.
Just to see, you know, I don't necessarily disagree with you, because I think that all of the things you're saying are probably really true. I know Boulder has for years said no more building, and they just said we've got plenty, and we're close enough to Denver, we've got everything we need. But I think that would be really interesting to see a discussion with, like, the city council.
Yeah,
I would love to.
your round table would be
Yeah.
interesting there. I would
Yes.
love to see
Yeah.
that.
Well, and again, right, those are the conversations that need to happen.
Yes.
It doesn't mean we walk away from that table with solutions.
Right.
It just means that, you know what, let's talk about this. Because I'm a firm believer, discussions, conversations last forever, right? You can pick up that same conversation 3 weeks from now, you know, a month from now.
And you might find solutions somewhere in between.
Yes,
Which
you might.
is just talking about it makes
Yeah.
such a difference.
And listening
And listening.
to everybody's viewpoint. Well, Ruth, do you have anything? Do
I
you have
do
anything?
have.
Oh,
I
good.
do have.
Yes.
We're keeping you longer
No,
than we
that's
should.
fine.
I know we are, because I know you've got things to do and places to go, people to see. But nonetheless, I want to know what you feel like about this immigration issue and our sanctuary cities, that kind of thing.
Sure.
I really want to know what your
Of course. I
philosophy
will
is
tell you
on
this. I'm in strong opposition to sanctuary cities and sanctuary states. That is just wrong. Nobody gets extra protection or extra rights, specifically if you're not a citizen, right? America was designed for the citizens of this nation. And so if we're not getting extra rights and extra protection, why should anybody else be getting extra rights and extra protection? And so it is about the rule of law. And so when you have sanctuary cities and sanctuary states, you're basically announcing to the world, you come here, we're going to protect you, even though we may go to the extremes. You don't have to worry about that, right? That's just wrong. That's not the American way. The American way is we take care of each other, but you need to become citizens. You need to assimilate. You need to learn how to speak English. You need to be able to understand our laws and how we operate in our communities. You have to understand that when they're coming from Venezuela, or they're coming from Mexico, they're coming from Honduras, their quality of life is really a third world nation.
exactly.
You know, and they're coming in here, right? And they see this abundance, and they see all these things. You go from making 50 cents a week to $500 a week. You know what? They love it, but they forget that the rest of us are trying to make a living as well. So I don't support sanctuary states. I don't support sanctuary cities. I have that voice, and I have, unfortunately, you know, or fortunately, my ethnic background allows me to have that conversation,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Without being accused of being a racist, or without being accused of I don't like a certain group. No, let's talk about what's actually happening, right?
Yes.
Same thing with ICE. Look, I think everybody would agree, regardless of party affiliation, we don't want criminals in the streets.
Yeah.
We
Right.
don't.
No.
Okay. However, we need to make sure that the ICE officers, just like police officers, they're properly trained. They properly, right? They have compassion because these are people. Yeah, they may have broken the law, right? But you need to be compassionate and forceful at the same time. There's a fine line there. But the public needs to stay out of the way.
Yeah.
What's happening with ICE right now is because the public is getting in the way of stopping individuals from fulfilling their job. Imagine if you were driving and you got someone, a police officer pulled you over for a speeding ticket. And then all of a sudden there were 10 cars around you saying, you can't give them a ticket. Why are you giving them a ticket? You know, we all speed. Well, that's not the way it's supposed to work.
That's not the idea. The idea is be able to fool them when you
Well,
can.
well, and especially if you're blowing whistles and you're distracted, you're afraid, you don't know what that group's
Yeah.
going to do to you.
No.
When you
don't-
create chaos, the unexpected will happen.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And
So
then it's just a tragedy.
Yeah.
I mean, on both sides.
yeah, and that's where the governor needs to step forward and have this basic conversations. You know, I envision. I will always. So there's a. I would tell you this, and I've been trying to see if I can get it moved, but we'll see. So, in Denver, in the Denver Library, on the 7th floor, there's a table that I really like. Okay.
Okay.
And what I like about the table is that it's round. There's no right side, there's no left side. And it's the table that was used by the Summit of Eight, when the Summit of Eight came to Colorado, right? So all the heads of states sat there. So you see the plaques of everybody, where everybody sat.
Cool.
And so I want to have the leadership sit at that table and we discuss. We're here for the people, not right side or left side. We're here to make things better for every Coloradan. So let's remind ourselves that that's what we told everybody we were going to do. That's why we wanted to serve. So let's serve correctly,
Right.
right?
Not
And-
for the paycheck, for
No.
the people.
You know, and again,
And
it's-
not for reelection.
Yes.
yes, right?
Yes.
And again, people have told me, Greg, why didn't you run for Congress again? It's like, to be honest with you, I don't want to be part of the mafia. You know, it's about power, it's about control, and it's about money, right? And the leadership will test you. It's like, we need you to be an enforcer. We need you to go out there and cause problems. It's like, no, we're here to make good, informed decisions. You know, if I wanted to be in Congress, I would be in Congress. But I don't care to be a part of the mafia. I want to help Colorado, right? I care about our state, the beauty, what it has to offer. My wife and I came here as newlyweds. You know, we've been here 38 years. We just celebrated 38 years last week. Actually, this past Friday.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. Thank you. You know, and so that's what I want to reinstill, right? Is that hope, that dream for people to see, you know what, Colorado, it's a state that really offers opportunity for everybody. But we must be careful with its environment. We must nurture it. We must protect it. We can't abuse it. And right now I'm sensing it's being abused so poorly, and she's just screaming, can someone please stop this abuse that's happening? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anything else, Ruth? Because you
Nope,
did.
I think I've finished now.
Oh, okay. How about you, Greg? Anything that you
Well, I would tell
that
you
we
this.
didn't touch on?
Well, I'm just going to leave you with this. Look, I'm not running for governor to divide the state. I'm running to unite it, right? And my campaign is not about left versus right. It's about doing the right thing. Because I truly believe we can build a Colorado that works for families, works for workers, and works for children. And we can build a Colorado that's worth fighting for. And that's really my goal, my vision, is to make this state something that we can all be proud of once again. It's going to take time,
Oh, yes.
but we can do it. We must have someone that truly understands the complexity of what it means to be the governor.
So, how would people, if they want to know more, how do they get in touch with you? And we always have this question too: is if you're elected, how will you keep in touch with the communities? And because sometimes people get elected and then you
never
can't
see
hear,
them.
yeah, and you never get to talk to them again. It's like, yeah, we were really good friends before, but now
Right.
that you're writing back, nope.
Yeah.
Have
So I
in
would tell you
touch with
this.
you.
So here's how people can get a hold of me, help me be the next governor. Go to greglopez.co. Okay, just like the state. Don't put the M on the end. It's just CO, greglopez.co, and that'll take you directly to my website. As it pertains to how am I going to keep my hand on the pulse
Yes.
of the community, right?
Yes.
I will be out here in the public square. You know, look, you prioritize what's important. You come out and you don't come in for a luncheon, right? You come in to spend the day. If you're going to come from Denver to Grand Junction, you don't come just to speak at the Breakfast Club and then leave.
Yes.
No, you tell your team, I plan to be there the entire day from 7 to 7 at night, right? Or I'll be there for a day and a half. Your job is to make sure that we have meetings with everybody and anybody that wants to meet with me, okay? When I was in Congress, I tell you a real funny story. I had my team that was in Congress that I kind of inherited, and they came to me, I think I was there 3 weeks. They said, Congressman, we're getting some emails from people, and it's not very positive. You know, it's not very friendly.
Right.
They're like, okay. And they're like, well, what do you want us to do with it? I said, well, what do you mean? What do I want you to do with it? They said, well, do you want us to answer it? Well, I said, well, are you answering the positive ones? They're like, yeah. So why aren't you answering the negative ones? Right? They're like, well, we don't know what to say. It's like, okay. So I told them, I said, okay, here's what I need you to do. Not all of them, but I need you to bring me 5 of the negative ones. And they said, okay, what are you going to do? I said, I'm calling them. They're my boss. They're not happy. I work for them. They said, you're actually going to call them? I said, yeah. So I would call, right? And I'd say, hey, Ruth, this is Congressman Greg Lopez. I got your email. And they're like, no, it's not. I said, no, it is.
Right? That's what they would say.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, and I said, no, I'm calling. And they're like, oh, my God, I didn't think you were going to call me. And they're like, I am so sorry. I left a voicemail with all that foul language. I did this. I shouldn't have done that, but I just didn't think you were going to call me back. And so we talk, right?
Right.
And just the fact that I'm willing to sit down and hear you, right? And try to explain the challenges that I'm facing, trying to move the needle, right? Lets people know that he cares. He's at least slowing down to come out and call me back,
Right.
right? And this is what I've been telling my team as we travel is like, look, why did I get here Saturday, right?
Right.
For a Monday event?
Right.
While a lot of people are showing up today just to be here for that event
Exactly.
and then they leave. No, if I'm going to take time out of my lifestyle, I'm going to go make the most of it so I can talk to as many people, engage with as many people, so that they have an understanding that he is willing to spend time with us, right? And we may not agree, but at least they can say, well, you know what? He's at least accessible. He's willing to show up.
That's important.
That's a big
Yeah.
deal.
It's very important.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate your time.
betcha.
Absolutely.
And you've been watching Mesa County Compass. This is the facts as we see them, the truth as we know it. You decide.
Thank you,
Thank
Greg.
you.
You betcha, it's my
Appreciate it.
pleasure.
It